Recording live from the E. Haley Memorial Studios, straight out of Elmont, Ontario, it's time for This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes, your one and only weekly Warmahordes news broadcast. It's 8 p.m. Wednesday night, the beers are cold, the news is fresh, and the death clock starts now.
Welcome, everybody. So today we are here on This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes, and I am PG Semi-Automagic, and I need to introduce who we have here tonight because we're lucky. This is the first time we're running with this new setup, and I think it's gonna go well. So
I like it.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do first is introduce the person to my right. This here is the Maelstrom.
I am Maelstrom.
That's it. That's it. That's all you got.
That's all
the
I
whole
got.
build up, and then I am Maelstrom.
Yep.
It's like I am Weasel.
Yep.
All right. And so to offset the Maelstrom, we have a special guest on today. He does some amazing things with cases. He's a PG. He may even be on a certain WTC team.
Yeah, he also does amazing things with little war dollies.
Yeah, I've seen that. So we have on here today Cory Doyle.
Yes.
Say hello to everybody, Cory.
Hello, everybody.
There was no pause at all where I looked up your last name. None at all.
I didn't notice.
And you gave me shit for not reading the show notes?
They aren't in the show notes. I wrote the show notes before I figured out what Cory's last name was.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm see, Richard's in the way.
Yeah, I know.
So this whole show just goes
it's
right in the
just a
shitter.
Fucking gong show.
Yeah. Well, since this is the gong show that it is, we might as well get started on the news because none of us have actually read or watched any of the things in the news.
No, we've been too busy playing games.
Yeah, it's the weird thing. We have this whole Mark III thing where suddenly, we're all actually
Not giving a shit about the news.
There's all this new like actual rules.
Yeah.
There's all this new fun stuff to do, and it's like, wait. So I could spend time looking crap up on the internet, or I could actually play.
Yeah.
Let's go play another game.
Yeah.
And that's sort of been the way it is for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to go a quick run through of the PP news for today. And then we're going to head into our focus section. We're going to look at fun with throws and how they have gotten awesome and how to kill all the casters with them. And then after that, we're going to go into the roundtable on Cory's clear cases. They caught my eye when at Privateer Press, there was one given away with a wonderful donation army of trolls. And I saw that and I'm like, I need to have that guy on the cast.
Yeah.
So since Richardson was away, I figured, you know what? This would be the time. While Richard is away, I get to play.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump right into the news. So, Cory, what armies do you play?
What armies do I play? Currently, I play Menos, Signar, and Trolls, are the three I currently play. I own, I think, almost all of them except for COC.
No convergence for you.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the aesthetic.
It's not a real faction anyway, Cory. Don't worry about it.
I love my Rulik, and they're not a faction yet. I will say yet, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got my eye on 13 gun bunnies because that might be what goes in 75 points, but I'm just waiting for the errata to drop because I don't want to spend all that money and then not be able to use them. So the first thing we've got today is a bunch of lists that have been released in the Insiders. So going up to Mark III, the Insiders were a way for them to give us information about what was coming up, about how the game was going to shape up. And now that the game has released, the Insiders are a way for them to get the sort of their idea, the kind of lists that they were using and the lists that they are using now.
Do you think those are the lists they were actually playtesting with?
I'm not sure if they're the ones that they're playtesting with. Don't do that. You keep those fingers down. That they were playtesting with. I assume that these are lists that they would take to a tournament.
Right.
Just the quick look at them that I had, they all look like lists that I might build. Okay. They're not particularly janky. They're all They
Fairly
all
well
use,
rounded.
They're fairly well rounded, and they all use fun models that I wouldn't have thought of using before that are really cool now.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So we'll just quickly go over the three. Jason, why don't you start with the list that Doug Hamilton has? And that's the Legion list. So if you can just give us a quick overview there
of what he put in there.
of what did he put in his list?
He picked Krissa, the new battle box caster, 2 Angeliuses, a Rake, Forsaken for Fury Management, along with 2 Spell Martyrs for Fury Management.
Oh, for Arcing, right?
Arcing. Not Shepherds. Spell Martyrs. I got ahead of myself. The Shepherds are next. 2 of those as well. Bladedness Swordsman, who I just picked up a month or so ago, and I'm having fun with. The attachment Abbot and Champion for the Swordsman. A unit of Bladed Ogren War Spears and Chieftain. A Hellmouth, which is always a good time. And the Black Frost Shard for the last 9 points.
So we're not going to go into detail about how a list like this would operate, but what do you think is sort of the point of this type of thing? With that Hellmouth up in the front being
There's
annoying.
there's some board control there. The 2 Angeliuses under Chris's feet would be armor-piercing P+S 17s.
Wow.
Yeah, and the Spell Martyrs, I imagine, would be throwing out her... she's got a Spray 10 that does continuous fire damage. So I imagine she'd be mowing down some infantry with that.
So she's just lighting everything on fire.
Yeah.
And the swordsmen are there to sort of mop up whatever's left.
Yeah, her feet gives +3 strength, so even the war spears assaulting.
Oh, that hurts.
And
Maw.
the swordsmen are also weapon masters.
And they're getting
So
Hunter.
they'd be P+S 14 weapon masters. on
Yeah,
their
and they're
feet.
getting Hunter from the UA.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty scary sounding.
so
list.
if
I might
it-
have to try that myself,
that's-
actually.
there's
not too
nothing
bad.
wrong with that list.
Yeah.
So the Legion one was actually the latest list to come out. We did encounter 2 others. Cory, would you like to do the minions or the circle? Do you have an affinity for either one?
Either one's fine.
Why don't you go over the minion one?
So it's Helga first, with target attached, a Warhog, a Battle Boar, 2 Gun Boars.
And this battle group equaling 59 points, which is actually pretty good. She gives Gang Fighter, which makes him really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's got 4 of the Swamp Goblin River Raider solos, Alton Ashy, a Totem Hunter, and 2 units of Pharaoh Slaughterhousers.
That's a lot of River Raiders.
Well, they do gain dash.
Oh, okay. So the idea here is to get all that stuff up the board quickly and then follow it in with the Warhogs and sort of use the gun bores to suppress anything you need to.
Yeah, and Defender's Ward does keep a unit of the Pharaoh Slaughterhousers alive a little longer. Plus, they're more thematic using pigs, not gators.
Yeah. I think though they could have gone gators in here,
Right.
I think that the idea here is, like a lot of us, even though he has the option to go with the other models, it's more of a, I like the piggies. Let's do piggies.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. So the last one is the Matt Gotez's circle list. Now, you're going to have to bear with me. I am not a good circle player, so I won't be able to give a lot of commentary here. But it is Grail, the Farstrider, with a Feral and a Stalker. And I don't know any circle list that doesn't start like that. An Argus, the Wild Argus, which I think used to just be called an Argus, and then Butcher got more Argai.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Wolf Lord Morag and the Wolves of Ouroboros with their Chieftain and Standard, the Reeves of Ouroboros with their Chieftain and Standard, Skinwalkers with the Alpha, which is, they're just so good, Shifting Stones, of course, and the Gobber Chef. The Gobber Chef is, if you play Hordes, it's the 1 point.
Yeah.
Because I'm finding a lot of people are building 74-point lists and then going, Gobber Chef.
Yeah.
Yes, 1 point.
It will also double with the Wolves as a Fury management for his beasts.
Okay, because he can provide comfort food.
Comfort food.
Yeah. That comfort food can be amazing. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to the other food-related ability that's coming on the Trencher hot meal, where it just
Epic
heals.
Trigger's new best friend.
Oh yeah, it just completely heals a model unit.
Oh.
And yeah, which is amazing on
Yep.
like horses or
Yeah, it's
anything
great
that
for
needs
Cav.
to be upgraded, or those units that are also warcasters
Yeah.
to suddenly heal that warcaster.
Yep.
Yeah, makes me very happy. Okay, so there's a quick overview of those lists.
Yep.
I would always say go to the Insider and check
And
those
read it
out.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, because in the Insiders they give a lot more commentary.
Right. They do. Yeah.
Way above what us yahoos could actually actually tell you about it.
Without reading it verbatim and just being like,
yeah, well, that's not commentary.
That's not how we roll.
That's reading.
Yeah.
Not that we don't just read. So another nice piece of media that has come out is the How to Play video.
Right. Which I just saw for the first time tonight.
Now, I have had a little bit longer with it.
Yeah.
But the How to Play video is very different than the last ones that came out. So
Right.
near the end of Mark II, they sort of had a quick introductory video. They were kind of like 15 minutes, and they gave you an idea about just sort of, it was like your very first BattleBox game.
Yes.
Right? It was like, here is how allocation works. Here is how you spend focus. Here's how running happens. Here's how a combat
That's really cool because when I first started playing a year ago, I did a lot of searching on YouTube just to find a tutorial video, and I think I found one like on Beasts of War or something.
Yeah, Beast of War did one way back.
Yeah, and it was really the best one I ever found for explaining things. So it's nice that Privateer Press kind of went out of their way to make one of these for their own game.
Yeah, a shout out to the mini wargaming one as well.
Yeah,
some
yeah.
Canadian guys. They also did a really good little series.
Right.
I would say it was a little bit longer than the Beast of War one.
Right, yeah.
But Beast of War actually just this week are doing all the battle boxes.
Nice.
So if you are a Beast of War fan,
Yep.
make sure you check
them
that out. A bit of a different thing for this video. This is more, I think, aimed at all of us who are switching over from Mark II to 3.
Oh.
So it's got stuff like how to set up,
differences.
what the overview of a turn is, what's ref terrain, what's
Yeah.
concealment, what's cover, what's area of effect, magic attacks, all that kind of stuff. And what's really great is right at the beginning, there is a big layout. So you're like, what the heck is the rules on unit activations?
Yeah, there's
or
basically
something?
a table of contents right at the start of the video. So.
Yeah. And then they do the whole thing, and then they have a link to the Horde's basic training, which is almost identical except for the Fury mechanic.
Yep.
So again, like we said for the Insider, go check it out.
Yep.
It's a really good video, and it's really something quick to look at. The next thing is we've seen some new sculpts.
Yeah.
Some pretties. The new Knights Exemplar officer, who looks amazing. This Signar Storm Grenadiers
Yeah.
are out. The Styxis Gun Mages, which are gorgeous models.
Yeah, they
oh
really
my
are.
god.
I know. I don't want to buy them because my wife will just end up using them to slaughter me with.
Yeah,
but they are gorgeous models.
I think that's always the problem when your
Yeah.
wife plays this game.
Yeah.
It's like buying the stick to hit you with when you buy her models.
Fetch
It's-
me a Switch.
Yeah, exactly. I get that feeling every time. I'm like, you really do want Goat Vana. Yes, I'll pick it up on the way home. Oh.
But I'm not going to assemble it for you.
Nope, you got to assemble it. Oh, my wife is doing an all goats list. We're just waiting for that goat calf to come out.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. All right.
What else we got?
The
Tibbers.
resculpted Tibbers.
Tibbers.
Yep. Along with all the, what were they called? Warjacks of Renown coming out.
Yeah.
There is all the Hordes equivalents starting to get resculpts. Proteus, now Tibbers. And like the Proteus, looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. one last thing in the release schedule that's just been shown are the new token sets.
Yeah.
So the old token sets were obviously themed token sets. So unlike in your battle box, you got the little privateer press tokens.
Yeah.
These are ones with your faction logo on it, but it's the same basic ones that you got in the battle box. So you've got a regular spell, which is the round one. You've got an upkeep spell, which is the sort of two-lobed one, the pair of circles over top of each other. You got the focus with your logo on it, and then you get the neat little like logo-shaped tokens.
Right.
And they're just sort of generic effect tokens.
Do they have continuous effect tokens in there as well?
So here's the thing. The continuous effect tokens that were in the old sets are now actually new by themselves status effects.
Oh.
So there's 3 packs. I will check to see exactly what they are. But they are mixtures of the 3 or of all the statuses. So there's, for example, there's knockdown and stationary and all those different ones. Let me just get them up here. Status effect tokens are, here we go. So they come in 3 sets. Corpse and Soul, because if you are getting souls, you'll know it. Right. Universal effects, Fire, Corrosion, and Disruption are in one set.
Yeah.
And then Blind, Knockdown, Shadowbind, and Stationary.
Okay. That's not a bad way to do it.
Yeah, so if you're Kador, you're buying all of 3 sets.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. If a lot of factions, probably you're buying all 3 sets, really.
Well,
maybe not the Corpse and Soul.
Well, that's it. You're going to get Corpses and Souls, I think, in Kador.
Yeah.
You're definitely getting Disruption, Fire, Corrosion, Knockdown, Shadowbind, Stationary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some of us are going to be buying all of them. Some of us will be buying some of them.
Yep.
Some of us will be plugging Muse and getting the Muse tokens or the upgrade packs to the Muse tokens, which are out now.
Please, Muse, don't hurt us.
No, I want more tokens.
Yeah.
Well, to be brutally honest, 2 days after John announced that, I did order the upgrade
Did
tokens.
you? Yeah.
I'm just waiting for them to come in.
Just do it. You're a token whore and you know it.
Oh, I'm such a token whore. I may have had to get a larger case for my tokens.
Yeah.
And then get another case for my tokens.
Meanwhile, I'm just sitting over here waiting for my goddamn laser cutter to come in.
Then you can make your own tokens.
I make my own tokens. I don't want to pay $80 when I can make my own.
So those new tokens are out. So one last quick thing to discuss before we head into focus is we took a course.
We did take a course.
So last week we had James on the cast.
Yeah, Mr. James Craig.
Yeah, an amazing painter.
Yep. Nice guy, too.
Yeah, great guy. And he was generous enough because he's just starting back into doing painting courses.
Yep.
That he did a very limited engagement free painting course.
And we may have just been invited.
Yes, we were. It was an amazing course.
It was.
It was at the Nexus in Kingston.
Yep.
So we had people up from as far as Hamilton.
Yeah.
There was us from Toronto, from Ottawa, and then there were some Kingston people, and it was really amazing. I came around with 3 or 4 amazing things, and if if you look on the Moose Machine page, you will see the product that you should all go out and purchase, which is the Unicorn Tears.
Are you going to post maybe some progress pictures of the stuff you were?
Yeah, I can definitely post those.
should.
Yeah, because I learned some chipping techniques and just some basic painting techniques. I am by no means a wonderful painter. I would call it a serviceable painter. I'm
a table-ready painter.
I'm a table-ready painter.
Yeah.
I do, as we've talked about before, pick paint schemes that can be done with a rattle can and a brush in a very short period of time. But I do, on occasion, actually paint a model. Actually paint a model. And I think that's what I'm doing with the Signar. It's going to take me the entirety of Mark III to get through the Signar.
I liked what you had so far. It was nice.
Now, I'll post some pictures.
Yep.
All right. So did you have any little things that you had from that?
I just had a great time. It was supposed to last like 4 hours, and it ended up going about 5.5.
Yeah, we really got our money's worth.
Nice. I'd been having some problems with finding a decent shade to wash my Legion models with, because they're kind of that weird frostbite, the frostbite blue with a little bit of exile blue thrown in.
Yeah, that sort of frozen dead skin.
Yeah. So I'd been having a bit of a problem, and James recommended some really good washes to bring out the shadow and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely worth going. And James is a fantastic guy. If anybody gets the chance to take one of his courses, I would highly recommend it.
And
he does a lot of one-on-one with you too.
Yeah.
Like if you have any questions, like
he's right there.
I think a couple people he was trying to eat lunch, and a couple people were still asking him questions, and he put his lunch aside.
I was going to say, to his credit, he just dropped that lunch.
Yeah, he dropped that lunch, and he made sure that everybody got their questions answered. And
well, just to pimp his courses a little bit, there will be paid courses coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know locations or anything yet, but when James lets us know, we'll let you know. So follow our Facebook page.
Yeah.
And we'll have the information there.
Right.
All right. So I think it might be time to get a little
Focus!
where the focus thing is playing. All right. So we're back, and today we are focusing on
Stuff. We're focused on Cory. Cory
no,
Doyle.
we're focusing on power attack throw.
Oh, okay.
You're so good at this. You are awesome at this.
Don't let Richardson listen to this.
He totally is
I'm
going
totally
to.
getting fired.
Dude,
God damn it, Maelstrom.
What you've done so far hasn't gotten you fired.
Yeah, this is true. I'm still here.
So,
Throws.
Throws are a thing.
How do we throw?
Well, we may just have another press ganger on this cast.
Yeah,
So
let's
we're
ask
going
him.
to throw this to Cory. Cory, so
Earn that PG, Cory.
yeah, it's Mark III. You're sitting there with the black shirt, and some nice
Noob.
comes
Name
up to you
Maelstrom.
and says, "So I want to hit that thing over there with this ward jack. How do I throw?"
So the basics of throw, because I gotta look up power attack throw. You know what? I don't do this often, right?
Well, that's
Barely play this game. That's what press games do, right?
well, yes, but as a press ganger, you should be able to answer the question quickly and efficiently, whether you're correct or not. Right? That's the idea.
Nothing like putting
So
Cory
my
on the
typical
spot,
answer
eh?
starts off with, "Do you own War Room yet?" And I demonstrate the new functionality of War Room.
And then you get them to read it to you.
Well, yeah, I read it out to them. I'm a nice guy. I don't want to
okay.
everyone is literate, especially tabletop gamers. We're the worst.
Yeah.
So a model making a throw power attack picks up a model. So first step, you need an open hand.
Okay. Yeah.
I think they switched. See, I'm really weak on this because I've been playing not power attack throwing. They switched it now, and throws are just throws.
Yeah. There is one of the
difference-
things that we listed is that there was sort of a cheaty question in the show notes because I put in what are the types of throws.
I should have read those.
Yeah, because there aren't any types of throws. There just
aren't.
a throw.
So the difference now is you spend the focus as before, you roll the hit as before, but now you roll 1d6 versus 1d6 if you have one hand or 2d6 if you have two. The second big difference is models don't scatter if you were throwing at someone outside of your distance.
Yeah, so that is a really huge thing. One of the things about the new throw rules is that unless you roll dice, you can never scatter. So if you haven't rolled to hit, it only goes your throw distance. So what's the throw distance?
It is half your current strength.
So half your current strength. So if I'm a warhog with my bad example, he doesn't have an open fist. Anyway, if I have gotten
You're
Something with an
a
open
mountain king
fist.
with rage.
there, you go, a mountain king with rage. My
Goes from, I think there's 17 base, would go up to 20, would throw for 10.
yeah,
Wow.
wow. Remind me not to get thrown by a mountain king.
Yeah, no kidding.
That-
Can you throw
Don't quote me on the
somebody-
numbers either. I'm not
Yeah.
actually looking at anything.
Can you throw somebody right off the table?
no, actually,
Top of the table edge.
they stop at the table edge. It is a rubber edge, so
Okay.
they hit the rubber edge and they don't bounce back. They
Gotcha.
just land
Kind
safely.
of like one of those video games with the invisible wall.
Yeah, exactly. Where you can run right up against it. So
So sorry to cut you off. I think the biggest change to power attack throw that we have to note also is that you can pre-measure.
yes, pre-measuring has really changed the throw. So let's go through the throw mechanics. So I've got two models.
Yeah.
And I move my model up, and I can see the model I want to hit. So there are two different ways I can throw. I can choose to do a targeted throw or a non-targeted throw. If I'm doing a non-targeted throw, the throw moves in a line between my base and the base of the model I'm throwing.
Yeah.
So it just goes straight away from me. The distance
Yeah.
until I hit either an obstruction
Right.
or a model of the same base size.
Okay. Not bigger, same base size.
Same base size.
Okay.
You can throw over almost everything.
Right.
Unlike a slam where it knocks everything down,
Yeah.
a throw is just going to knock down the thing it hits.
Okay.
So the next thing I'm going to try and figure out is if I want to do a targeted throw. Now,
Right.
say I can only get like to one side of the guy, and I want to throw at a warcaster that's slightly off to the left or right.
Okay.
So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do a targeted throw. So a targeted throw is going to be a mat attack. So don't worry about your guy with mat 7 rat 2.
Okay.
He's going to use his mat to throw.
Good to
So
know.
now
Good to know.
that I've decided how I'm going to do the throw,
Right.
first I got to hit. So I rolled a hit with Matt.
Okay.
And once I've hit, now we have to do a strength check because generally things don't like being thrown around.
Right. He's
So-
gonna fight back a little bit.
Yeah, he's going to kick back.
Yeah.
So what we do is we do a strength check. So if I've got one open hand,
Yep.
I roll 1 die.
Okay.
If I've got 2 open hands, I roll 2 die.
Ooh.
It's just that simple.
You want those 2 open hands then?
Yep. Unfortunately, my target always, no matter how many hands he's got open, only
can
gets
roll
1
one die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've got 2 open hands, throw's probably going to go off unless you tank it. Double ones is still going to suck. So I've won my strength check. Now I'm actually going to do the throw.
Yeah.
If I'm throwing away, as Cory said, I'm just going to go half my distance.
Yeah.
I'm going to land on somebody. They're both going to be knocked down, and they'll take some damage.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to target, then I'm going to make a mat attack against the model I have targeted.
Okay.
So I'm chucking at your Warcaster. I'm a mat 6. You're probably a 16. I go ahead and I roll those 2d6, hoping for that 10. You can boost this hit roll as
Yep.
well
Okay.
if you really need to knock that caster down or something.
If it's a caster, chances are you want to.
Yeah, you're gonna boost that.
Yeah.
So once I've done that, now we have to do some damage.
Right.
So the damage is always going to be based on your strength.
Okay.
So you normally just take a strength damage. The guy you're throwing, you can boost on.
Oh.
The guys that
gets
are
hit?
hit, you can't boost on
Okay.
because you have no way to make that stronger.
Right,
You're
exactly,
already
yeah.
throwing with all your
That
strength.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't boost those things. Now there are certain times when they will cause more damage. Some models can use the strength plus their weapon or something like that, but that's on a model by model basis. That's not a normal thing.
Okay.
The thrown model also, if it has hit an obstruction or a model of the same base size,
Yeah.
you're actually going to get an additional die.
Ooh.
Yeah, so you can do a lot of damage with a throw and knock
Yeah.
down a lot of things and then shoot the crap out of them.
Nice.
Now, the big thing that makes these throws so much better than before
Yeah.
is what we like to call the laser throws. So if I'm throwing at a model and I want to hit something, say I've got a strength 12, I want to hit something 6 inches away,
Yeah.
then I target a larger model behind him that is in the same line as us,
Yeah.
and I throw, and you are going to land directly on him. Just boom. There's no rolling dice or anything because the distance is right, and I have to move directly towards the other guy until I run out of distance.
Okay.
Or I can move my base so that that line between my base and
Yeah.
the thrown model's base is a line that I want to take.
So if you throw at something bigger, say there's a bigger jack behind the caster, you throw at the jack behind the caster, where the jack that you threw lands, does it push the caster to the side? Like, does it move?
So it really depends.
Okay.
If it is a successful hit, like
Yeah.
a direct hit, so it would be right on top of the caster.
Yeah.
The jack or whatever you're throwing actually stops at the edge of the caster's base.
Oh, okay.
If he's not directly under, then it's the wonderful thing called least disturbance. And least disturbance might be the most subjective thing in all of War Machine.
Oh.
Basically, you have to move the least number of models, the least distance, so that the base that you are throwing ends up where it should.
Okay.
And yes, that is as horrible as it sounds in a tournament. Because if you, and by
That
the
sounds
way,
like something people would love to fight over in a tournament.
absolutely. Yeah. This is why anytime the words least disturbance come up, I throw my hand in the air and yell, "Judge!" because I am not touching this with a 50-foot pole.
Yeah.
When I am the judge and I hear that come out of someone's mouth, I cry
hide under the table.
I cry a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. I die just that little bit inside. But that least disturbance generally will it very seldom favors you,
Right.
but it can occasionally. If you can just see a small base behind a warcaster,
Yep.
a really horrible thing happens where you throw the large base onto the warcaster.
Right.
Then the base is pushed backwards and stops in front of the it lands directly on the thing behind the warcaster. The large base is then pushed towards the warcaster or towards the warcaster and lands in front of the model behind it.
Okay.
And that pushes the warcaster back another 2 inches.
Back or forward?
Back towards the throwing
thrower.
model. Yeah, because least disturbance says I only move that one model.
Oh, so it's a
and
great
I
way to
move
get
it to-
that caster
Yeah,
even
that
closer
caster
to
ends up
shoot
2
off the
inches
table.
closer to you, which is horrible. So never let that happen. Make sure the squire is to the side. Make sure Reinhold is a couple inches away. He doesn't have to be cuddling up unless this was the turn that you were shooting twice. So that is throws in a nutshell.
In a nutshell,
Have we
yes.
had any questions from the chat about throws?
Not about throws, I don't believe. Any, mostly just people saying how goddamn broken throws are.
Throws in Mark III, I would say, are something that is part of the Warjacks got freaking awesome.
Yeah.
It's not that they are. I don't think it's broken per se, but I think it is intended to make Warjacks that much better. So you might say it's broken if you played Mark II. I like to say to a lot of these people, leave your Mark II thoughts at the door, because this is literally an all-new war.
Yeah.
That is one of the bits of the game that you want to take with you into the future. Leave the other bits at the back.
Right.
Now, there is an errata coming out. For all I know, things are going to scatter tomorrow, but as it stands right now, that's the way we throw.
Everybody got that?
Now here's the worst thing. How many times did you see a throw on Monday?
Absolutely none.
I don't know why people aren't doing them.
Because I think the biggest thing is people still, like,
You're
it's
still
not
scared of
something
power
that
attacks?
it's just something that doesn't register because I'm not exactly 100% sure how to do it. So I think the best thing to do is for people just to have a game and be like, okay, the only way to win is by somebody throwing something into my caster and knocking it down. And that's the only time.
So you're telling me I have to release my new grind rules?
Yes.
So we can all play grind, and the only
way
things you can
is
do
power
in
attacks.
grind is power attacks.
Yeah. Why
Got
not?
it.
It's a great way to learn power attacks.
It is. It's an
if
absolute.
you have the free time or free game just to do it, then why not?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it will be a good way to do it.
That was a terrible pun.
Yeah,
King of the North says, terrible pun, George.
Yeah, King of the North is calling my shit out. All right, so that was our focus for tonight.
That was.
So let's go on to a round table. And
With our fantastic guest.
our fantastic guest, Cory.
Mr. Cory Doyle. I remembered his last name.
Look at that, just like you're supposed to. So why we brought Cory on is because of his amazing cases, but
Also, he's an amazing War Machine player.
yeah, well, see, that's the thing. I was just about to say, we're going to get Cory to give us a little lowdown and dirty,
Yep.
not only about how he got started, but what all the amazing War Machine things he's doing right now.
Yep.
So, Cory.
Tell us all about yourself.
From tabletop gaming side or me personally?
Well, let's start with a little bit of you personally, and then
Yep.
mostly tabletop stuff.
Not too personal.
Not too personal. I'm a dad. Super cool. My kid's 11 and plays War Machine also now, which is also fun.
That's fantastic, man.
I work as a not-for-profit doing employment for people that have come out of streets and from streets to homes. Like, we've housed and then we've moved them in towards employment. So I have a really fulfilling job now as I've retired from like real jobs.
Wow.
You work at a nonprofit like the rest of us?
Yeah, I used to be a truck driver. Before that, I ran heavy machinery, so it was a big adjustment to learn how to be a social worker.
Oh yeah.
As far as miniature gaming goes, I think I started when I was about 16 or 17 with a game called Blood Bowl.
Yes.
For those old enough to remember Blood Bowl. And when I got into it, it was 3 pieces of styrofoam that you put on a table, and most of the models we had were cardboard cutout that we made ourselves because models didn't exist or were really rare and hard to find in the small town I live in. So I started with that. I played till I was probably 22, 23, was busy working and sort of shelved a lot of it for a few years. And then about 27, 28, my son was born. I just got back into tabletop gaming as some way I could paint around the house and hang out with the wife and kid. And then it took away from drinking with my friends on Saturday. I could go play War Machine, have a couple of beers,
Right.
and not spend as much money in the long run. That was my hope. I spent way too much money on War Machine.
I was just about to say you traded one addiction for another.
Yeah.
And a more expensive one, evidently.
Yeah.
My wife continually reminds me she's wonderful. So I've played pretty much every table game I can think of. I've tried, ending with War Machine now, which is probably my most favorite because the rule set is so clean. As far as me personally, I went to Lock and Load for the very first one. I had a great experience, had a lot of fun. It was my first big con that wasn't small G. Like I'd been to games days, I'd been to smaller ones. I'd never seen 2,000 people in a room playing a tournament. I'd seen the 150 tournament players. I'd never seen an Iron Arena. And that was at Lock and Load the first year. Walking into the Iron Arena was just this baffling thing to me. I'd never seen that. I live out West Coast Canada, and I'd never traveled out east for the big conventions. So Lock and Load blew my mind. I had a great time, played in the Masters, and I found a lot of the guys were really easygoing. I played some great players. I actually got to play Jason Watts my first year.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Back when I had no idea who he was because I was a noob. I've been back every single year since. And then last year I started getting a little more competitive. I hang out with, I play Jeff Everett from Team Moose on WTC this year is a buddy of mine in Kelowna. And I play... I can never say his last name. I'm going to butcher it here, but I play Lucas K out of Vancouver a lot.
Okay, yeah.
And we hang out and talk a lot. So last November, a buddy of mine who was on the committee for the WTC asked me to apply. Just said, hey, we're looking for some good players. You want to put your name in? And I applied and managed to stumble my way through the process, which, by the way, is a really enjoyable process. The questions are unreal and super difficult to answer. Very, very enjoyable 2.5 hours answering questions.
Now, this is probably the first time we've talked about this part of it. We have had Marc-Andre from Goose on before, but when you're doing that sort of interview process, is it mostly about War Machine? Is it mostly sort of, I would say, ambassadorial stuff? Like, what are they quizzing you on?
So this year, Jerry Hostrom, I think, wrote the questions, and we used a bunch of them from last year. And then Jerry, so you pay a fee and you enter. I think it was like $35 or $45, and that's all those funds go towards helping the team. So apply if you think you're anywhere near the caliber, just for the experience.
Yeah.
The 20 questions, I think it was 20 questions. It might have been 10. It was a long time ago, but half of them are based around you as a person, and the other half are based around the game itself. So one of the questions. Roughly, I'll paraphrase it because I can't quite remember it fully, was, can you explain this faction in your meta and how they play out in a European meta? So, like, how does this faction rank and how are they based in the power level tiers, and in Europe, do you feel the same? So the questions, there are War Machine based, and the others are, how do you find yourself as a player? Because that's, I think, equally important for us as Canadians, is to represent ourselves well to other nations. So going over with a bunch of power gamers, probably not what we want to represent. We want to represent a very friendly, outgoing community.
Yeah, even when people like the King of the North can get on a team, we still want to have a bunch of people that will show how good the Canadian meta is, how good people are, and really show the world what it's like to have Canadians at your event.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it too. Like I love playing some of the guys in Vancouver and our community. So we have a lot of really strong players out here. I got to meet Charles Sung this year, and Chandler and some of the guys from out east. But what I've met in the community that we have as Canadians, I don't think I've met a player that I didn't like.
Yeah, that is one of those things that I've felt incredibly lucky about in this community.
Yeah,
is everybody is so amazing. So you got on the WTC team. But what sparked my interest was a picture from Lock and Load. And the picture from Lock and Load was, or the short video was something that I've actually heard of happening a couple times in War Machine. And I think that not everybody will know about this, but probably once a year, the worst thing that can happen to a wargamer happens.
Yeah.
And that's, you had your battle bag in the car.
Yeah.
And somebody breaks into your car, or sometimes it's your house.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they take all the shit that's easy to steal, and they grab your bag, not knowing that it's full of nothing that's worth anything to anybody outside of a model store.
Yeah.
And they take the car stereo, they hawk it for a couple of bucks, they take your CDs and whatever change you had in the cup holder, and they open up your bag, realize it's full of minis, and it goes in a dumpster somewhere, and nobody ever sees it again.
I think people see the battle and the battle foam wording there, and they think there's a
gun or a
some shit
knife
in
or
there,
something in it. Yeah.
and just they open it up and they're like,
That
the
must
looks on their faces.
Or power tools.
Or
Some of the
power tools, exactly.
Some of the hard look very much like power tool cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in that case, and that's happens unfortunately large amount of time.
Yep.
A relatively large portion of that time, from what I can see, the community will rally around that person,
Right.
Because we all know what it's like to be without your models.
Oh, it
this
hurts.
thing that you do for fun, that you do to release tension.
Yep.
That some days it's the reason you get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
I know how I feel just when I drop a model.
Oh yeah.
I can't even imagine having them just all gone suddenly.
Yeah, just so, and for some people that's thousands of hours of painting
Yep.
and assembly
And dollars.
and well, yeah, not to mention the monetary. And for some people, they've been playing this game for 7-10 years.
Yeah.
They've probably had that longer than any car they've ever
Yeah.
owned, you know? And so when that happens, as I said, the community will rally around and they will rebuild an army.
Yeah.
So everybody will donate a jack or two, and or a unit or a caster.
Yeah.
Often they will be
Because lots
painted
of us
up.
have doubles.
Well,
it's
we all are addicted to these tiny models.
Exactly, yeah.
We've all bought a model that maybe we bought because it was pretty, not because we play any of those factions.
Yeah.
And when you see a guy like that, you're like, yes, here, absolutely. And this wonderful thing was happening again at Lock and Load. And they were showing him all the models, and he was doing the thing that we all do, choking up and going like, oh my God, you guys are so awesome. And then they showed him the case.
Yeah.
And I went, whoa. Because that's
where did that come from?
that's normally there's a battle foam bag or
Right,
KR
yeah.
or somebody will donate some foam for the guy. But there was this case, and I was like, that case is amazing. You know, it was great that this guy was getting his models back, but my brain suddenly went into, where can I get one of those?
I know. I remember
Who
the
is
first
this
time I
person?
saw it, I actually paused the video.
Yeah, I did the
and
same
was like,
thing.
what?
That's amazing.
How are those models just sitting in there?
So I did a little digging, and Cory's name came up. So, Cory, how did you get involved in this whole thing?
We have a local player in town who's over the years done some custom modeling for me and some artwork, and really he's just a super nice guy and is part of all the troll community. He's a troll player. And he approached me and said, hey, do you have any spare troll models? As a PG, I've got a spare room full of models that my wife would love to see me get rid of. That's clear space, yes.
That's
so
why.
So he approached me, and I dug through. I have a ton of stuff, and it took me forever to get to it with a full-time job and working weekends and planning for the WTC and doing the practice games. I didn't have time to just shut down and go do something, and I put it off, and then he reminded me, and by the time I got to it, I said, what does he need? Shoot me a list of what he needs, and I'll get on it. So he got a hold of the guy arranging it. They got back to him and said, well, we have almost everything now, maybe a couple of models. And Pat said, well, I got a couple converted ones I really want to give him. So like my first converted model that I made for my trolls, I'd like to give him. So he really doesn't need anything. But hey, you got this case you brought back from Seattle. I really like it. What about, can you make one of those for him? And at the time, the case back of my head was just this thing I built in my garage, right? Like a guy helped me out. We built it in a shop. But to me, it was an idea that started in my garage and wasn't I didn't think anyone would want it, right?
So Pat bugged me for about 2 weeks and said, listen, I'll pay for the case. I'll buy it. What do you want for it? What's the material cost? What's this guy charging to build it? So I went down and talked to the guy that's helped me build them and teach me how to work with plexiglass. And he said, hey, no worries. If it's a donation for a guy, we'll just make it. Just get the materials. We'll make it. So I paid for the materials. This guy has no idea what War Machine is, had no idea what anything is. When he built the first case, I just put models on the table. He goes, what are those? And he was really confused. Last guy's 55 years old, right?
Yeah.
But he heard it was a donation for a guy who lost his army, and he was like, yeah, I'm in. Like, I'm sold. Like, this is a good deal and a good deed, and we're in.
That's awesome.
So he put all the time and labor into helping me build it. All the machining costs he took on his own, which is really nice. And it was just this phenomenal thing this guy would step up to do. And then Pat again had offered, like the great guy he is, to pay for the materials, which we just, whatever. We actually ended up building Pat a case in exchange for it because we were so happy with how everything had turned out. So he redesigned my original case. Just tweaked it a little bit, made it fancier and nicer, made the door fit better, and we gave it to Pat to give to him down in Seattle.
That's amazing. So I'm betting a lot of our viewers haven't seen this. Now, what I'm going to get you to do is, if you can, is give everybody like a quick tour of the case like you did for us earlier.
Yep.
And if you can narrate as much as possible, because we're also an audio podcast, because people both want to see and hear about this amazing thing. So you mentioned that it was Lexan.
Yeah, it's made out of plexiglass and Lexan. So we do use some Lexan. Most of it is plexiglass. So first, I'll introduce you to the cameraman, my son Colton.
Colton.
Hello.
Cheers, buddy.
So he's going to run the camera here for a second. So the basic idea was to make something as useful as possible. But that, again, I worked for what we wanted. So this seems to terrify a lot of people. So I'll
yeah. So for those of you,
and they do go fully upside down.
So for those of you listening, he's taking his what is the equivalent of a battle bag and turning it upside down. And all of us over here, sphincters are puckering right the hell up.
Oh man!
So it's a cube. What did you say the footprint is on that?
So on the table, the footprint sits at 12 across or 13 on the base by 8 inches deep.
Okay, so it's 8 by 12, and just if I can do a little descriptive video here, it is a clear. You said is the outside Lexan or plexi?
Most 90% of it's plexi. We're using Lexan right now for the bases, but we want to move away from Lexan as it's super expensive compared to plexi.
Yeah. Okay.
And we just want to make sure plexi lasts on the base.
So it's a plexi tower. How tall is it?
The one I have in front of me is 16 and a half inches.
So it's 16 and a half inches
to the top of the plexi.
Yep.
Not the handle.
Not the handle. Okay. So
it's about 17 to the handle.
Right on.
So it's about a 17-inch tall box, and all of the models slot into it. So so it's this like clear tower that you can see all the models inside it.
Yeah.
Now, so describe to us those trays, because those trays are what allow it to do that neat trick where you can turn your entire case upside down and all those models don't just fall out.
So the trays are just plexiglass. We bought special router bits, and we've done curved edges that allow us to hold the models in. So you can take, I hate doing this because they're not solid at the back, but you can take.
That's why.
It fell at the front though, I swear.
Yeah.
You can take them and just turn them sideways, shake them, and nothing will come out.
That's insane.
Yeah, that is incredible. So basically, each shelf has these special slides in them that you can drop each model into. Now, can they come out the front and back, or is it just in the front?
We have it for front and back because it's just easier for production.
Okay.
There's a guy I'm gonna switch this back around once I figured out how to work technology.
There we go.
We have a guy at our local club that actually just took tape, just clear Scotch tape, and he taped along the back side of the trays to hold them in.
Just so that they only can come out one of the two directions.
Yep.
Yeah, that way they don't fall out when you're putting them in. I haven't had a lot of trouble with it, and I've taken a case to every Wednesday to club. So after I leave here, I go to my club. It'll just be the case I bring. It's gone to Seattle twice with me, once for the Seattle Open, once for Lock and Load for the weekend. And then I've gone to 2 or 3 other tournaments in town here and locally where this is all I take is the case.
So when you have this beautiful case that it's see-through, you can put all your bases in it and you can tip it any which way. So how did this amazing case come to be?
So I'll make the story as short as possible. About 3, maybe 4 years ago, we drove down to Seattle, a group of us in a van. I think there was, again, 12 from our club that went down. And we were going for GodaCon in Victoria. So it's a 2-hour ferry ride and a 4-hour drive, 4.5-hour drive from my house. So we pack all our stuff out. We load it up with the foam bags. We all go down. We've all got the cookie sheets and drove down to Victoria. We get there. We set up. Thursday night, we just hang out, have beers, hang out, do the chill thing. Friday, we get to the event. We all unload our bags onto our trays. We get set up for the team tournament that Friday night. And we're buying tokens off a lady there. They're selling, the Fury and Focus tokens and stuff.
Yeah.
And she turns and knocks my buddy Travis's tray over. So he's playing 2 Cricks list. He's playing the Gatsby 2 30 Banes list. And he's playing a Denny 1 list with a bunch of Statixis and a bunch of other stuff. So all small
infantry everywhere.
Infantry everywhere. And it spills all over the floor.
Yeah.
So pieces break. We spend probably half that night putting his stuff back together. Again, she was awesome, though.
Accidents happen.
She comped all this stuff for him, gave him a bunch of free product, and it was great. So you can't be angry over it. Accidents happen. So we fix the stuff. We go back to the event the next day. We're playing. I think we're on 2 or on 3. I finished the game super quick because of an assassination. I turn. I put my my tray on the table. I walk over and I'm talking to a couple of buddies. And guy's playing a game. He's having a really bad experience. A game ends. He's super mad. He loads his bag super, super quick. Turns. And I've just got a cookie sheet with a Colossal and a bunch of gun mages and Kane and some other stuff. And he spins and he clips my Colossal, which is magnetized.
Oh, yeah.
Top half breaks off because it's lightly magnetized so I can play with it. It's not super stuck on. Tops off, tops on all my infantry, bends a bunch of hammers and stuff, the halberd. So if I leave with the guy because I'm a press ganger, right? So him and I, we got to go have a talk, have beers, make sure everything's good. I want to make sure his experience at the tournament was good because it's my friend's tournament. So we want to make sure everyone's happy.
Yeah.
So guy's good. He feels really bad. Offers to fix my stuff for me. It's like, no worries. Don't worry about it. Shit happens, right? So we move on. So the tournament ends. Had a blast. Loved GodaCon when it existed. Drive home. We get on the ferry. I'm on the ferry and I'm with my wife and kid. And I start complaining. And my wife is Rebecca, a wonderful lady. And she's not one to put up with problems. She wants solutions. So I start complaining, and she looks me right away and she goes, well, you're giving me a problem. Why don't you give me a solution? Figure something out. Like, you didn't like that. Why don't you put it back in your bag at the end? That's the easy solution. But if you don't like that, figure something else out.
Yeah.
So I sat down, I thought about it, and she looked at me and she goes, why don't you just build like a little shelf? People will see it better. And I'm like, that's a really good idea. Like, I'll build a little shelf. And I saw those routed out. I'll plug another company. Or I saw those routed out Broken Egg games once. I thought those are great. I can probably make something like that pretty cheap. I've got a woodworking shop and access to it. I'll go try to do that. So I used MDF, glued it together. I built a 3-stack shelf, nailed and screwed and glued everything together. Took it to the first event I had here. We played here in town, and it worked great, except for it was big and bulky. So I built it 10 by 7, so it would always fit in your deployment zone. You can move it, but I had trouble getting the guys out. Because, again, they were routed, there were shelves. I made it as short as possible so it would easily fit into a table. So I went back to the shop, reworked it so all the shelves could come out. But then I had troubles with the guys falling off the shelves. So you'd get bumped walking between tables, they'd fall over. And I put some time into painting my models like the rest of us. I wanted to make sure it got fixed. So I'm like, okay, how would I stop that? So we're out. I have a patio. It's got 2 tables set up on it all the time and a set of lights for them. We're out having a couple of beers. My best friend's a carver, lives in my basement. We're just shooting the shit, hanging out. And I'm like, hey, that tool there, could we use that to like curve these to slot my guys into this MDF? And he's like, probably. I'm like, sweet. Like, can we set this up and do it? He goes, yeah, you just got to go buy a special bit for it. Find a bit that works. So I go up to our local store. I bought a beveled edge bit, put it into the machine, ran it through, and it worked great. MDF, no wear and tear, no parts, no labor, nothing. Just blew right through it. Pieces all worked good. In Kamloops, we're a desert. Everything was great. I went down to Vancouver for a tournament. Day 3 of the tournament, just getting ready to play my first game, and everything's really stiff because the MDF swells.
Oh, so suddenly nothing moves.
The humidity in the air.
So the humidity just made all the wood not as good as it was before. And again, with privateer press, you've got to be super tight with the bases or else they fall out.
Yeah.
So I go back to town, and I basically scrapped the idea for 6 months. Sitting around talking at club, 9 months ago, and one of the club members, an engineer right out of school, just started working in town, brings up the idea of using Lexan or Plexi. And I'm like, well, that stuff's expensive. Lexan's really pricey. He goes, well, plexiglass isn't bad when you buy it in bulk. And I'm like, well, I'm not buying it in bulk. I'm buying it for me. So we go down to a friend of mine. He's building a tiny home. In where he's building a tiny home, there's actually a glass shop in there with a guy that does custom glass works. So when did I meet this guy? He's 55 years old, the nicest guy in the world. Instantly, we hit it off. We like hockey. We talk about life. His kid's the same age as my son. And we just laugh and joke, right? So we hang out for a little bit. He asked me about the game. I explained it. He's a little confused. So I go home, come back a couple of days later. I drop my Army on the table. I'm like, this is what I got. He looks down. He goes, what the hell are those? Well, they're miniatures for tabletop. And I'm like, hey, I'm going all the way to Amsterdam to play this year. Like this is actually sort of a big thing, and I really enjoy it. It's 20% of my awake time is probably War Machine, between thinking about it or laughing about it or talking about it, painting and everything else. It probably eats up a fifth of my awake time. So he's like, all right, well, we'll build something. What do you got for an idea? And I told him what I had. And he goes, well, I don't know if we can get the machinery to do that, but he goes, what about just making a tee? I'm like, yeah, if that's the first thing we're going to do, we'll do that. Whatever works. So he builds the first case for me. And I go to the Seattle Open, and I didn't treat the case well at all. And it was just 4 sides slapped together or 3 sides, a door, a top, and a bottom slapped together with trays that were basically a T, and they went over the top of my bases. So I actually had to break anything that hung over the top of the base off just to use the tray.
Oh, yeah.
But I went down to the event, and I realized when I got there, I didn't have to unload my bag into a tray. I was ready to go.
Oh,
yeah. I could just
slide it out.
Yeah, I got to the event, and everyone started to pull their stuff out to play, and I'm like, oh.
This makes
awesome.
things easy.
I'm already ready to go, and I've got 70 krill. Like, this is a lot to put on. So I played my first 2 or 3 games, and the cases had some slides to stick to them. And I'm like, if these are really smooth, it'd be really nice. So I go back to town. I sit down with the guy. I'm like, hey, this was great. I really like this. I think it was great. I don't mind the price because it was a lot of money to buy the first one because, again, I had to buy Plexi at regular price. He goes, well, I can get Plexi at wholesale. He goes, I'll give you wholesale rates if you want to build them. Come into my shop, hang out, have some beers, build what you want to build. I'll teach you how to use machines. So I spent some money. I bought specialized bits for the machine to cut for the bevel that I needed. Took some time to set up proper stations to do it on, and then built the first one that was just for me. So I built one for lock and load that was for me. And the first thing I wanted to do was make it as functional as possible. It had to be something that made my game experience more enjoyable. If I was going to spend $500 building something, I was going to really enjoy it. It wasn't going to be something I built and thought, oh, it's not as good as I wanted. So I built a dice tray in the bottom for holding all my tokens and all my widgets and all the stuff I needed to carry. It actually fits my clock and my rule book. So like on the bottom of my tray right now, I have that, and it fits
rule book, cards,
the full
tape, dice.
Minis, and all my cards, tape, dice, laser, the whole kit and caboodle fits.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's a 12x7, so it's actually quite roomy, and it's 2.5 inches tall.
Oh yeah,
which is enough to put a full clock in, which is so nice.
That's great. Like my clock's not in here because I lent it out to a guy in town here because he wants to get ready for a tournament this weekend. But normally I have a clock in there, and I can squeeze everything in pretty tight. So I'm like, well, that's great. Like I like the idea. And then he's like, well, how's everything slide? I'm like, well, it slides pretty good, but it's a little tight. So we bought the custom bits. We made it super loose. And what I really like about the case now is that, try not to show you too much of me, is that your models come out of the trays just super, super easy.
Slide them right out.
Yeah, and what he's doing for the people listening is the way that they're laid out. You can just put your finger in the back and just slide all of the models right off of the tray.
Table.
And then the second feature, my buddy Nathan likes to say it this way, and I like the terminology is, while you're playing, as they die, you get to lay them to rest.
Right back where they came from.
Because there's a 13x8 shadow. It doesn't eat up a lot of your table space. You put it right at the edge of your board, turn it so there's 12 forward to that space, and no one ever goes into unless you have a journeyman caster or they use prey on you.
Right.
I want prey. Yeah, but you just slide them away as you go. So at Lock and Load, I played with 70 Krell. I played 3 games with 70 Krell. I played Jeff Everett, a buddy of mine. He played a Xerxes Fist of Halakalist into me, and we basically tabled each other. I think at the end of the game, we had 6 models left, 7 models left on the board. And I went and picked up the last 4 or 5 of my models because I capped this as the flag. I win. I'm like, sweet. I put my caster in my case and like my 3 remaining cabers. And I load my case up, and I'm like, all right, I'll go report to the judges, ready to go. And he's still looking at his bag. He's just open.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh, well, you want a hand? Like, I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, you're a dick.
Yeah, that would make things so much easier. At the end of the game, you'd be ready to go for your next game.
I am looking on with jealous eyes.
Yeah.
So for anybody in the chat and actually anybody listening later on, I've just posted a bunch of pictures of the cases that Cory sent me, all the different shapes, and there is one picture that there are two pictures that you will look at and you will want to rotate them, but they don't need to be rotated. The green bit is always down. So there's one of them where all the models are hanging from the case upside down, and there's another one where an entire Legion army is on its side.
The other thing I liked about this, I do play other games. I know you're a War Machine podcast site, so I don't really want to advertise others.
No, that's fine.
We're about 2 games.
I have a smaller tray. Has a sideways opening door, so it's more structure to it. But the tray that comes out fits into any of the cases.
Oh, okay. So you have a smaller one. Like if you're doing a journeyman or something, you don't have to take your entire large case. You can just take the smaller case.
That's amazing.
That is so nuts. We're just watching Cory put all of his models on the side.
Yeah.
And you know what? As much as it is amazing, every time you do that, my heart just jumps right into my mouth.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take.
We've had these at our club since before Lock and Load. The first batch of 10 I made, a bunch of the locals just jumped on and bought. And when we took the pictures, the Signar Army is actually a buddy of mine, Dave's, and I said, "Can you just lay it on its side, real quick for the photo?" And the way he laid it down, I was almost laughing so hard on the inside because he was like super ginger. He's like, I don't want to let it hit. It's like I walk up to my stuff and I'm like, there you go, down. It's on the side, whatever, right? And he's super like, oh, it's there are plexi. The plexi cracks, plexi breaks. The bonus of plexi is any glass workshop can, for a small price, repair it.
Nice.
So one of the guys at club, I broke a case pressure testing them.
Yeah.
I broke 3 or 4 because I've got to make sure they can withstand the game.
Yep.
And we just glued the bottom back together.
Nice. Yeah,
and it basically welds it back together. We have a small welder, and you just use the welder, and it cleans it all back up. And it functions fine for him. So he's been using it for probably a month and a half for every game he goes to.
That's amazing. Now, so those of us who are not in the wilds of Kamloops, we'd like to get our hands on these as well. And I guess enough people bugged you about this that you're going to do something about it?
So Lock and Load was a shock for me. I went down to Lock and Load after Seattle Open. I didn't get a ton of guys coming up. I had 4 or 5 guys come up and talk to me about it. And when I got back to Kamloops, the glass owner actually approached me and goes, "Hey, how did it go? What did people think?" I'm like, "Oh, I had 5 to 10 people come up and talk to me." He goes, "Well, how many people were there?" I'm like, "I don't know, 30, 40. Seattle Open, maybe 60. Like, it wasn't a huge crowd."
Yeah.
He's like, "So 20% of the people maybe?" And I'm like, maybe a little less, give or take. Came up and talked to me, but a whole bunch looked at it. He goes, "Well, what do you think looked at it?" I'm like, "Oh, maybe 15, 20% looked at it." Came by, took the time. He goes, "All right, well, build a cool one and we'll see what happens. You got a big event coming up?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got Lock and Load in mind." He goes, "Let's build you a really good one." We ended up building the one for Dallas in that because that had come up as part of the conversation. And we ended up building one for everyone in the club. And my wife had printed off 250 business cards. And this is my favorite story. I get to Lock and Load the Thursday, the press gang event. No one really comes up and notices. I didn't really show it off. Press gang event ends. I go into the tournaments Friday. I play Masters Friday. And after Masters, just walked in our arena, I put it on the floor and walked away from it and forgot about it, which is what I love about our community is you can do that with an army.
Yeah.
Right? Especially mine because it's in a glass case and it's easy enough to notice. So walk away and just leave it. Come back a couple hours later, go back to the hotel, put in the hotel, go up for the night, hang with the guys. Come back Saturday, and no one's asked me. I haven't even had a guy ask me about the case. So I'm sitting there Saturday, and I'm like, man, this sucks. And then a couple of the WTC guys are walking over, and I just grabbed the case and laid it on its side so it didn't fall off the table because it's
tall.
The one I'm using is like 19 inches tall, so I'm worried about to fall off the table. So I just laid it on its side, and I walked away, and I couldn't get 3 feet from the case before guys were around me asking me questions.
Well, that's the thing.
The primary question was, is it magnetized? And the response was no. They're like, well, what do you have to do? And I'm like, well, for the original case, I didn't do much. My models are right off the shelf, and all I had to do was not overhang on all the sides of the case. I had to leave 2 sides of it where you could slide it through, because how the edges come up is they come up and they curl, and they go just to about where the flocking would be inside a base.
Right.
So as long as 2 of your sides don't expose over top of that, you're good to go.
So you can still do something like Scar of the Broken Coast, where she sits up proud of the base because the sides are still fine.
Correct. As long as the sides are good. You just have to, and then the other one problem we've had so far, and there's again, Jeff in Kelowna is a buddy of mine. He's got a bunch of those bought resin bases.
Yep.
So knowing that, I'm actually just building a slightly taller cut to create a base that'll fit the resin ones, because they're all slightly taller. And the guy here in town has the same bases. He just sanded his down with sandpaper and they fit.
Okay.
So it depends on the level of work you want to put into it.
Yeah. Nice.
So
the other huge feature that I didn't really point out, but I sort of took everything out, was that everything is modular. So like I said, my built for infinity tray is on top, but everything comes out, makes an empty case.
So even the one with the colossal sized openings come out and allows you to put a full tray in, which is amazing.
So the same.
And then also with the colossal, we do have a half tray that just slides in and sits above.
Perfect. That's nice. So you're at lock and load. You put it on its side, and then suddenly everybody's like, "What?"
That was the basic gist of the story. Charles came up and hit me up right away for it. He was blown away, and a bunch of the other guys were like, this is just really, really cool. And I sat down and talked to a few guys, and had a couple guys come up and talk to me and just mentioned, hey, like, can we get one? And that was really the start of it. Was like, okay, well, I put the IP in for it, so the intellectual property property. I did the patent for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did the patent on it and what I could do the patent on it for, and I thought, well, if guys want to buy them, we'll see what we can do. Yeah. The problem is for me at first was deciding, will guys pay enough to make it worth doing? Because the plexiglass is expensive. I think I pay upwards of 100 and something a sheet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting a lot of cases out of that sheet because it does eat up a lot of plexi. So the cases themselves were expensive, and the labor they're very time consuming and labor consuming unless we have machines.
Right.
So part of the process talking to the guy in the glass shop here in town was that we wanted to look at being able to pick up a couple machines to make it so that we don't lose money making them, or we can charge a decent price.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to charge for a standard, like the standard one I'm looking at now, I don't want to charge any more than what I have to. And to me, priced out right now at $15 an hour labor, which is the minimum I want to charge for myself, because it's half what I make at my job. Well, not half, but it feels like minimum wage.
Yeah.
Yep.
It runs about $180.
So
which is relatively steep to me.
It's steep, but it is not unreasonable for the utility and the safety for your models.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, when I looked after it, actually says comparable with a lot of other cases.
Right.
It's just ours has sits in a different bracket. And the other bonus is I wanted to cap at the size. We have a backpack coming. There's a lady in town here that's making me a custom backpack for it. We're going to test out. But with the backpack surrounded, it's still 13 by 9 and under 22 inches tall, which would make it carry-on size.
Wow, that's
You
that's
wouldn't
amazing.
you wouldn't have to store it under the plane, because I wouldn't take this on a plane and stow it under. It's going to get broke.
Oh yeah.
If you work for the airport, I apologize. You're nice guys. I've never stowed anything under a plane and not had it broke. Even my phone bag got smashed.
Yeah.
My Colossal was in 6 pieces when I got it out from the airport.
Yeah, we had somebody in the chat mentioning that there was somebody also with one on a dolly running around, and they were getting a lot of attention.
Yes, Dave. Dave, one of the guys from Club, again, he put it onto his regular bag, and since then he's never done anything but pack it around on a dolly.
That's awesome.
So,
but his case has all metal models, and it's got storm walls, storm lances, everything you can fit, storm blade into one case. And he had 12. He fits in his case 12 large base models, 16 medium base, and 42 small with a Colossal.
Wow.
That is amazing.
I was actually just about to ask what the average, like how many lists in general you could fit in one.
Well, you said 2 lists with no overlap in trolls, which is all medium bases.
Right.
That was my biggest case. It's 5 trays.
Yeah.
What I do is I broke down a per tray size. It's not up on my website yet, but it will be soon. So the per tray size is the small base is 30 mil. You can get 6, maybe 7 rows. We're experimenting with the spacer size between the rows.
Yeah.
What we don't want to do is we don't have models banging together.
Yeah.
And we don't want to have models that just don't fit because they're too big.
Yeah.
So right now we can get 6 comfortably. We might get 7, and you get 6 guys to a row. So right now it's 36 guys to a small base tray. A medium tray, if it's just medium bases, is 20 to a tray, and then it's 12 large to a tray. But again, you can do half trays. So what I've got here is a bunch of Manoth models, all medium base, and the final 2 rows are for small base models.
Yeah, the fact that it's all modular like that is genius. Like just being able to get the different size trays to put in there.
Yeah.
It makes it so much
And
more versatile.
if you want to play the game that shall not be named or Guild Ball or any of those, you could just swap out the trays. You don't have to buy another outside.
Yeah.
On the Guild Ball one, I actually make a Guild Ball case that a friend of mine sat down with me and we built specifically for Guild Ball. It's actually just one single tray on top of a dice tray.
Oh, okay.
You might have it here.
Because there's a lot less models. You would need something nearly as big.
So it's still covered in the brand new plastic because I don't have a Guild Ball team yet.
I just want to peel that off.
Oh, yeah. I think we all do.
I just want to peel it off so bad.
But it's a single tray that fits three large.
Yeah.
2 groups of 4, so 8 medium, and it will have 3 sets for small bases, so it works out to 18 small base models.
Perfect.
You can actually fit 2 or 3 teams on it, and it fits into any backpack.
Wow.
So you just take your regular school backpack or whatever you want, throw it in there. It doesn't come with a handle because we feel it just fits into a backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if it's going in a backpack, you don't really have to worry about it that way.
Just go get a damn $10 backpack and put it in there.
Exactly. Slide it in.
Yeah.
And the biggest selling point when I first saw them, because I was really hesitant on, it's 11 pounds, so 5 kilograms, so which is empty. It's a little heavier than what you'd buy normally for a foam. But the big selling point was when I put it on the table, everyone sees my models.
Yeah.
So I'm at a tournament, and again, a guy in town here does a ton of conversion work. We've got some really good painters in town, and the fact that no one can touch their stuff but look at it really impresses them.
Yeah, I'll bet people who are serious painters are just going to absolutely love that.
It shows off all those pretty models.
Yeah, and well, you spend a lot of time on those models.
Yep.
Well, just look at James. Oh man, I want to see James's army in one of those, just so that I can see James's army at all times. So if I want to get one of those, how does it happen?
So we are actually just right now, we've sent in paperwork and we're waiting for approval for Kickstarter. The hope for Kickstarter is to be able to buy machines to make better stuff for the cases. So one of the things we want to add is we want to add the ability to sell spacers. So basically proxy bases. So when you buy the case, you're going to get enough proxy bases to fill out all the row but one guy. Because what we don't want model shifting, right?
So if you have a tray, you'll get enough spacers except for one on each row where you can put in models.
So the idea was if you buy, say you buy a case.
Yep.
It'll be so for the standard case that is I've shown you today, you'd have 5 small base proxy bases. That way you'd fill up a row and you say you had one guy left over, you could then put 5 proxies behind him or a proxy
perfect. Okay.
row, and that would flush all your rows flush to the door so nothing can shift. For the medium and the large, they don't quite fit full to the row, so there'll be spacers from between them and a proxy base, 2 proxy bases for the large, 3 proxy bases for the medium. So you can always flush up that last guy. And then we're hoping to be able to put some spacers in for the large base models.
Nice.
Mainly because guys have MOG.
Yeah.
I only done a Fashion Thunderhead and Deathjack are really awkward models. You got to put them in funny. So it'd be nice to have the ability to put a spacer in to make sure that A, your model doesn't move, and B, it's not going to smash into something else.
Yeah.
We're also looking at trying to get a laser cutter good enough to cut rubber.
Ooh.
So we could slide rubber in for some of the, again, not as a proxy base, but between the bases to give you a little more space if you wanted, again, for a model like Mulg or with a large weapon that overhangs, or for custom conversions. Again, Pat in town here does some wonderful custom conversions that are always too tall or too large. A buddy of mine, Will in Kelowna, does some amazing work. A Circle of Orbos army with all these custom built, scratch built stalkers. And the ability to be able to make sure those are safe for me is important.
Yeah.
That was the second idea for the case is the Kickstarter is just base models. Once we launch and the Kickstarter is running, we plan to sell extra trays. as cheap as we can get them sold, because the ability to have a shelf. What I'm building right now in my spare room is basically a 8-inch wide by as tall as the ceiling by 12-inch deep shelf. I just slide my trays into.
Oh, that's wonderful, because then
The
you
side
can,
trays I'm just writing on. I built it all out of plywood. I'll show pictures of it on my site as soon as I get it fully finished. Plywood and MDF, so anyone can build this in your own house. And the idea is you just slide the trays right into the shelf.
and then when you're ready to
Right
go,
into
you
the
grab
shelf, into
you
the
grab the
shelf.
tray out of the
Amazing.
shelf
Grab
into the
the case
case.
you need.
Off you go.
The case you need for that day. If you only have one, you grab your case. For me, I have 7, so I grab whatever case I feel needs my army.
Yeah.
And for the custom stuff, we want to be able to do custom sizes. So say you built Avatar of Menoth and you've made him too tall. We want to be able to adjust our case size to fit that.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to give you the space to email us and say, hey, this is my model count and the height of some of my offset models. Can you guys build me something different? Because we're going to stick with a 12x7 or the 12x7 trays. So all we're adjusting is the height. It makes the cost only the material.
Perfect. Okay.
So we're going to be able to do custom work for a little cheaper than you would get work normally done for.
That's
Perfect.
amazing.
Yeah. So I have linked your Facebook page on ours, so that people will be able to see there. Is that a good place to head to try and see when the Kickstarter is going to come out and when we can order trays?
As soon as the Kickstarter is out, we're going to link it to the Facebook page and we'll fire up the website in the next day or two and hopefully get that running also, so they all link together.
Amazing.
Great. So, okay. So, thank you, Cory, for coming on. It has been amazing to have you. The death clock has long since run out,
Yeah.
but I sure as heck didn't want to stop Cory talking about these amazing cases. So we're just going to go back and see if there were any questions in the chat.
We did have one question in the chat. It was more of a list question, but I know Cory's a Menoth player, so you might have a little better idea.
Redeemers.
Yeah, Redeemers is the answer.
Always more Redeemers.
So it comes from Grim Tiding. So I'm working on Menoth Dojo, and as I listen to what do you guys think is better, Krios with Judy and Reckoner, or Tristan with Redeemer and a full Idrian's boat?
I'm going to have to go with, Redeemers.
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 It's Krios 1, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So feet knockdown. To me, it really depends on what he plans to play it into and pair it with. If it's just a one-off list for a hardcore, I would take Judicator, to be honest, as it gives you some melee punch, whereas the Redeemers only give you shooting.
Right.
Yeah, something that can stand in a zone and make sure that you don't lose by mistake.
Now, if he has a pairing, so he's pairing with like an Epic Sevi or a Sevi 2 list, where his intent with that list is to be able to take down larger models, or a Resnick one where he can just kill something heavy in a turn, then the Redeemers are great for killing after you get 9 AoEs a turn versus 4 off the Judicator. You get 2 sprays off Judy also, which is where the versatility comes in. But for 33 points, you can get Tristan, he's 4 points, I believe, so 37. For Tristan, will give you the same points as Adjudicator, or one less. You to get a mechanic also. So you have 9 shots, extra focus for Tristan. So you'd have 2 fully run shots if you wanted to hit a jack. If you're still buying the Reckoner for both lists, they become Rat 3. You can hit the harder jacks. Krios will knock stuff down, meaning they auto hit. So the 9 shots is good if you're not planning to crack a ton of armor.
Perfect. He was saying that it is 2 lists, and that's the first list.
So as a first list, as long as the second list can handle being able to crack 8 Juggernauts and Butcher, or something along those lines. Not to be able to play. He's got to be able to take out those, and the Redeemers just don't have the punch, even with 3 shots auto hitting. He can go for an assassination, but it's a 19th threat on Krios' feet, so it becomes the range game, right?
Yeah.
Can I stay 19 feet? Pre-measurement makes that so strong in the new Mark III that staying out of Krios' threat. I found the 3-4 games I've played Krios that guys will just play that cagey, I avoid your threat as long as I can, and by the time you finally get to it, I've engaged your stuff.
Yeah, it's nuts, and it's going to be I think it's going to be really neat seeing how all this stuff shakes out.
Oh, for sure. This is super exciting. I've had more fun in the last 2 months playing War Machine than ever before, except for my first 2 months. It feels like I'm everything again.
Yeah, I think that's the feeling we're getting around here as well, that it's literally an all new war. All right. So we're going to let Cory go. We're going to let all you wonderful people go. We are long since diced down.
Oh, wow. It happens.
Yep.
It happens.
Closing.
All right, you guys have a good night.
Dice down! Moose Machine and This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes is a proud part of the Muse on Minis network. Podcasts go online every Thursday morning. You can watch the show live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch and keep in touch with us on our Facebook page. Just Google Moose Machine. If you can't find us, you're doing the internet wrong.